Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Drums, a new series on Pete Beswick Drums, where I'll be interviewing various drummers from the YouTube drumming community about their channel success, love for the drums, and tips and advice on growing a YouTube drumming channel. Today, I have great pleasure in introducing a well-known face across the YouTube drumming community. He is Mr. Bryan Gribbin. Bryan, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for saying my last name right. People have a tendency to say the last name wrong at times.
Oh, really? Oh, right. Okay. What do you get? Gribbon, do you? Or
Oh my gosh, they spell with an
uh,
O. Sometimes they spell with an E.
the
I
Gribben?
think at some point
Gribben?
I'm going to, yeah, I think I have to show my social security card at this point. It's either that or my handwriting's got terrible because these days we're typing a lot more. I'm noticing it too when I'm starting to write checks and everything. I can't do my handwriting anymore.
Jolly good. Well, no checks involved today, so it's a good start. We've got the surname right, so all good. Yeah, no, thanks for coming on, Bryan. It's going to be great to have a chat to you. So let's kick off. I always like to go sort of right back to the start on the first question, asking where it all started, really, and why is it drums, and do you play any other instruments, and what is it about the drums that grab you?
I don't know, it's like an interrogation right now, but uh, the stories I've actually told this a good number of times in my podcast interviews. I don't know how many of you've seen, but sometimes that question has come up. It's phrased a little bit differently, but the way it all worked was way back when I was a wee lad, back in third grade. I actually started playing the cello, and I was in orchestra for about 9 years, all the way from middle school, high school. I didn't get it when I went off to college because there wasn't any sort of symphonic orchestra there or anything like that. In fact, the school that I wanted to go to was about 3 hours away that had everything I wanted. So unfortunately, it would have been hard coming home on the weekends, doing like a 3 hour drive here and there. But uh, so that happened there, and then the cello went on the back burner for a good while, and then eventually just kept collecting dust. So we sold that off. And it was also sometime in high school when I got the video game Rock Band, and obviously you start off playing the guitar because girls seem to love the guitar player the most since he's the one that's always shredding and all that stuff. But eventually I wanted to try out the drums, and of course it was just one day, hopped on in, and it started becoming fun. But because of the love seat, I was sitting pretty low, and unfortunately I had to do a makeshift sort of throne with putting towels underneath my butt and everything. Uh, so I worked my way up through the easy, medium, hard, expert, able to at least play most songs on expert. And my parents realized that wasn't a fad. They just asked like, "Hey, do you want your own drum set?" I was like, "Sure, we
Yeah.
can make that work." But and some of the things I've always mentioned in some of the videos I did on my YouTube channel, it was the installation is not very good in this house. So doing an acoustic set would travel pretty well through the walls. So my parents would hear me upstairs. So they were like, an acoustic set's not going to cut it. So fortunately, we were able to find electronic sets, which we started with just a beginner set. I think it was still Roland, but I can't really remember which specific brand of Roland it was, but it was a typical beginner set where it didn't have like a traditional hi-hat. It was just mainly you press the pedals down and then it will give you the splash sound, for instance, or you hit the kick pedal and just give you the kick sound, but there's no kick drum right in front of it. But that was just the beginner set, and then
Oh,
eventually when it kept becoming more and more of a big hobby, they decided like, okay, we'll upgrade it to my current set, which is Roland TD 25K. So that's at least the story of how I got into drumming. I do play other instruments. As I said, I did sell my cello, so that seems to be long gone though. Maybe at some point when I maybe settle down into my own crib, I would probably get it back or something like that. But I do have a bass guitar, which is tucked away in here at the moment, and I've actually done a couple live streams on that and just doing like simple songs because I'm not really an expert on it. But I was on and off with the bass from time to time because my dad used to play it, and I'm kind of the same way at this point because I feel like I need something to convince me to get on the bass and start playing again so people can see it. So, and I don't know, did I miss anything else?
yeah. Now it's interesting. Yeah, linking in the bass. I mean, obviously playing in a band, you're so linked in with the bass player. So that's something that I've actually thought of in the past as well. how I'd get on with picking up a bass guitar, because I actually started off just on normal guitar, but never really took to it, and then obviously wanted to carry on with an instrument, and obviously had a musical interest, and took the drums, but that's another story. But yeah, I've always wondered about what it'd be like with bass guitar. Did you pick it up quite easy, bass, or?
Sort of. The only difference was the cool thing about cello and bass is that they'll both use bass clef. So the notes are somewhat similar. The only difference is cellos use a C string, bass use E strings. So the E string was a little bit of a learning curve right there, and then trying to make sure I know where everything was on the fret too. I know I was trying to do a couple. I don't know if I was going to say Metallica songs. Oh, Diamond Head. I was trying to do a Diamond Head song. I think Am I Evil? Yeah, I was trying to do that song, but I was easily able to get the beginning down. But then once we start picking it up a little bit, then it gets a little bit tricky. So
yeah, that's good. No, that's cool. That's cool. So you've done some bass online as well? Did you say? Is that on
yeah,
your channel as well?
yeah, it was just strictly live streams. I've actually done a couple
Okay.
bass covers too, and one was a Newfound Glory song, Hit or Miss, and then I think it was Jesus Online by the actually British punk band Bush. So
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, right. Interesting. Good taste. So talking about online, do you play? Is it only online, or do you play in a band, or have you played previously in a band? Do you have any interest in playing live to an audience, or what sort of background have you got playing with bands?
in terms of bands, I actually came close to being in a cover band, which would have done alternative music from like the 90s and early 2000s. So like Smashing Pumpkins, the Raconteurs, those kind of groups. I was only there for like 2 sessions, and that was actually the first time playing on an acoustic set, which really wasn't much of a culture shock as I thought it was going to be. So I did that, but then they found a new drummer, but it was mutual. It wasn't anything bad or anything like that. So that was about as close to being in a band as I was. Other times, my dad and my uncle would come over. We goofed around with a couple songs, playing like Neil Young or songs like that. That was more just jamming out, really, in case I just wanted to hang out and just talk about stuff, or even goof around with some of the gear I had with the audio interface and stuff like that. But really no experience with bands, but it's been strictly more online, to at least answer your question. It started off a couple of years ago because of the pandemic, and initially I was just going to do drum covers, maybe just see where it goes, just do it as a nice little hobby. But nowadays I'm trying to at least build it to somewhat of a career, even though, the climbing YouTube, it's treacherous and it takes very long just to get to the top too. So, but there have been guys in our drum community who have reached that point. I know Ash Wells, it was a guy you interviewed. He's been one who's made it that far. So would like to get to that day. So right now it's just strictly online.
Yeah. So moving forward, then, do you think you would want to play in a band, or are you just like the YouTube feel so much of playing online, or how do you feel about playing in a band?
I've always thought about it too, because I interviewed one guy out of California and he was into the same music I was. I tend to listen more of the heavier metal up to the death metal sort of sounds. So I tried asking him because he's played in a couple extreme metal groups, so he's pretty good. And I've been also thinking about trying to reach out to other people I've also interviewed who have played guitar, trying to think of just maybe make something and see where it goes. I never thought about touring, really, to be honest, because you hear some of the negative stuff about touring where it's like you eventually get sick and tired of seeing the same people over and over again. Maybe some sort of health problems occur at random points here and there. So I don't know about touring, but at least just making music, as well as just doing that as a side hobby and make somewhat of a side income, because streaming platforms, they don't really seem to give musicians their fair share here and there. So that would at least be what I would like to do. So at the moment it's up in the air.
Yeah. So have you got an acoustic kit, or is it only electric that you've got there?
Funny enough, so far it's just been electric. So what you've seen in all my videos, it's strictly electric guitar, or not electric guitar, it's electric drums. So, but a friend of mine actually told me because he works in real estate. He says this one guy's just giving away an acoustic set literally for free. And I told him, like, I'm interested. So send me pictures and let's just see where it goes from here. So I haven't got to the acoustic set yet. So we're working towards that right now.
All right, right. Do you know what it is? Do you know what
Uh,
brand it is?
no, I didn't. I thought it was a Tama
Mhm.
or something like that, but I don't think he mentioned it. So that's why I have
Yeah.
to see the pictures first. So we'll have to see what it is.
Have you played an acoustic kit before, or?
Well, that was strictly with the cover group I was a part of, which
You
I
had
forget
one
what.
for that, did you? Right.
I would say that was about the most I played on an acoustic set because I do remember way back when I was young, there was a friend of my sister's and her brother had an acoustic set in the basement. I think I remember just playing on like real briefly and stuff like that, but that was a long time ago. But I'd say yeah, the most recent had been with the cover group, and that was the most I played on an acoustic set. I forget what brand it was. I didn't know if it was like some sort of Frankenstein set where it mixed in various components here and there. So I couldn't tell you what brand it was, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Now it is a different beast, isn't it? On the acoustic from the electric. I know
Uh,
I find because I play probably 50-50. I'm obviously in a band myself, and it kind of because I can't play an acoustic here. I really look forward to playing on my acoustic when I go to practice. But it's a different feel, isn't it? I find it is anyway. I don't know what other people think of it, but maybe it's just because of the electric kit that I've got is quite small, in size probably compared to maybe the average electric kit. But I've got the best of both worlds really. I kind of, it's a bit of a jump, but an exciting one when I go to an acoustic kit. So let's move onto YouTube then and onto your channel in particular. Now on your channel, I'm not sure if I've ever seen anybody do as many interviews than what you do. The number of drummers you've had on there now is quite phenomenal, really. And so, what is it about sort of speaking to other musicians that you enjoy? Why is it an important part of your agenda to have so many different musicians on your channel?
I originally started off with just drummers, and I think eventually, instead of just sticking with drummers, I wanted to, since it's all music matters in that, it's meant to be everybody in the band or people of different music genres, for instance. So you can see why. So pretty much you're incorporating everybody in the music industry. So that's why I also reached out to other people who play like guitars, for instance. I know the guy I interviewed recently, uh, he plays more into techno and stuff like that too. So his drum set's a lot different than the average one. So uh, really, I suffer from being an introvert at times. So, and that was something I learned doing a brief stint in sales.
Mm.
So doing this sort of talking really helps out because it's more of what the kids would say. Now we're not strangers anymore. So, and now I'm not trying to like sell you anything. I'm just trying to like know your story. I'm trying to know what another human being is doing and plays a similar thing, which we have the thing in common with the drums. So that's really why I do these sort of talking too. But in terms of like talking with people who play different instruments, it's really was because they're friends like the drummers, for instance. So I know Ryan Thompson, for instance, he was friends with Kieran Wallace, who plays drums, and they had played together as well as jamming out trying to do like the group called Dream State Illusion. So they kind of just recommended it. I was like, okay, I'll just interview him and see what it was like. And at that point I decided like, okay, we're gonna start incorporating other people who play different instruments into this little podcast too, because it expands the audience now. So it's not just simply strictly drummers, because originally that's how it started out. But I saw like people like Drumman 190, now Ash Wells, uh, I know Drummer's Key. He also influenced me too. So that was what was meant to happen there. So and Really, that's just how it kicked off. So, and afterwards, just had to mix it up a little bit because when you jump on YouTube, you have to kind of differentiate yourself here and there. So,
Mm.
so
Yeah,
that's how the podcast was born and how it's been rolling ever since.
yeah. I think, for me, I think I probably said the same sort of thing when I had Ash on. Was I don't really know many people in real life, so to speak, in the flesh, that play drums. So, for me, it's just nice to be able to have a chat, with somebody else that plays, really. And I think that's the beauty of YouTube and being able to do this, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
drilling down to them drummers, especially I'm in the UK, you're in America. It's an amazing thing, isn't it? To be able to come together. But you've had some interesting people on that. I mean, do you know? Have you got any idea of how many you've had on that now?
Uh, no idea actually. I think I have to count, but it seemed like it gets smaller because I know uh, Eric Henninger, I think, who was the first one out of this drum community. He was the first one. I think he was episode 3. So I think I had to put the episode number next to each one I've interviewed. So I'm wondering if I should do that now going forward and just call it season 2 and just go from there. Just start all over again. Just say like, here's episode 1, and then just build off it from there. Because sometimes for other channels who've had like numerous interviews, they'll list off like which episode it is. So that's of course those people got like a giant audience at that point. So
So what do you think is the biggest reason really for its success? Do you think it was a particular cover that you did or a particular interview that sort of gave you the spike, or do you think it's more sort of quantity of how often you're putting them on, or do you think it's maybe the quality of the content that you put on your channel?
I would say uh, quality. To be honest, I try to at least branch out at times just to kind of show like what sort of works I'm doing too. So it's really just comes down to really hard work. So you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta promote it. You gotta post on the various social media channels like the Facebooks, Instagrams, all those guys. I mean, you gotta reach out to everybody else, and then doing shorts as well. YouTube shorts, those usually help too. And this week was tough, but I tried doing it one every day since they're only like 15 seconds. But unfortunately, my second job got in the way, so that was a little bit tough. So
Yeah, it does. It does. Definitely the shorts I've noticed on mine. Um, I mean, a couple of them, I've had over 1,000 views, which is quite steep compared to what the normal videos get. So there's definitely something going on with the shorts out there, isn't there? That definitely works.
I
Like
think
you
it's
say,
because
how
of
often do you say?
I think it's because of the attention span. They're saying people seem to have difficulty after 12 minutes. I think. I mean, that's what the study said, but they're saying people after 12 minutes have a hard time retaining or keeping track of what's going on. So I think that's why you see the students fall asleep in class when the teacher's going on for over 12 minutes. So it's something like that because now it's like you have to keep it short but still get the message across. So that's why
Yeah,
I think that's why people seem to get attracted to the shorts.
yeah. How often did you say you're putting shorts on? Every day, did you say?
I tried every day, but my second job kind of got in the way, and I came back and I was just mentally out of it. So I I think I gotta do it like every other day that I don't post a video because on YouTube I like to post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I think I like every other day between just post a short there just to draw some people in. So
Yeah. Because I try and do mine as a kind of a bit of a preview to the next video that I've got coming up. Um, so it's keeping on with your content that I find for me. So obviously I've got to have the video content to be able to produce the short. But I found that works pretty well. Something for like, the channel that I've got, it is having the content readily available. and that sort of feeds into creating the shorts, really. But so if there's somebody watching this and they fancy starting their own channel, maybe a drum channel on YouTube, what key bit of advice would you give them to help kick them off?
Well, depending on how many friends and family you have, they'll be your first subscribers. So, the biggest thing I learned, and I kind of kick myself about it nowadays, but you got to differentiate, because just doing strictly drum covers, for instance, if you're like just not a young kid, or if you're just this complete stranger who's just a normal person, for instance, you're not going to get the big crowd like what you see with other people get. So I think people who have made just say crappy videos, for instance, they'll somehow still get a big audience or something like that here and there. And you don't know if it's through cheating or whether they're a big name, somehow they're famous or something like that. So if you're just a normal person just trying to start out, you got to differentiate in some way. Not to say that you can't do drum covers, but don't just stick to songs that everybody's played for maybe the 10,000th time. Maybe like those Michael Jackson's Thrillers, or any sort of the big top 10 songs you see always make it there. That could work, and if you really love this song, you can certainly do it. But don't expect to be like 1,000 views after just day one. So there's, like I said, the climb is treacherous and it's long. So differentiate's definitely good, and also do your research. Even though your niche is mainly going to be in music, try to see like what other people are doing, and then maybe try to formulate it into your own strategy. Because that's how I did it with this podcast, for instance, with Drummer 190 and Drummer's Key, what they were doing. So, sorry. And after that, just really, you just gotta do your own sort of marketing too. So, like I said earlier, with doing Facebook, Instagram, all those social media, you got to get out there and promote your content too. You might have to spend some stuff here and there. If you're really into making YouTube a career, you might have to spend some money here and there, because I know TubeBuddy is something that comes in handy, and that kind of gives you like statistics and analytics here and there about how well your video is doing. And it's really just what it comes down to. So diversifying, researching, and marketing. Those three.
Good advice. TubeBuddy, I'll be making a note of that.
It helps.
I haven't come across that yet.
I'd say mine's the cheaper version. I just want to see the analytics and just how well the videos do. I think the higher ones might help you reach an audience. I'm not too sure, but they'll help you with tags and in terms of like how well it does on Facebook, or I think how much the title's like known to like people. So I think the higher that one is, the more it's like people will search for that or something like that. So to each his own. So
is that a website or is that an app?
It's part of YouTube. It's part of YouTube. So
right.
So you have to
like an add-on, is it, or is it within you? I haven't seen it within YouTube. Is it within YouTube?
I think you have to go to YouTube Studio, and maybe it will tell you. I think it's TB, so just look for TubeBuddy in there. I'm not too sure, but I'm not too sure if it was advertised a whole lot on my channel. Maybe that's what kind of got me into it, but I think I should check YouTube Studio first. So that'd just be my advice.
Yeah. I know. I with mine, obviously I started off just doing covers, and I just had all these different ideas floating around in my head that I wanted to do extra things. Like I wanted to start doing this and to chat people, and to playing in a band, and I wanted to get footage of what I was doing live, and I'd do a bit of teaching, and wanted to put some lessons up, and just wanted to grow it a little bit further, really. I'd done about 20 covers, and then I kind of fancy doing something else. And it was the start of the year, turn of the year as well, which I sort of changed mine and started doing some extra bits and pieces. But all good advice. So I guess the final question for me is back to your channel, and what have you got coming up for the rest of the year? What's coming up in 2023?
Well, we keep growing, to be honest, but the way it works, I always like to release a podcast episode every Monday. So like to say it's the way to kick the week off right. So, I mean, every Monday you'll see a new podcast episode. I've interviewed a good number of people already. So I think I'm good. Maybe till May. I'm not too sure because I normally like to think like I'm good for maybe a couple months, but then it's like once you breeze through a couple, then it's like, oh man, this list shrunk a little bit. I gotta find some new people to get on here. So so there's that. This week is gonna be once a drum collaboration on Wednesday, then I got a drum cover on Friday. But normally on Wednesdays, there's what's called the McGribb show. And I got the idea from Johnny Cash, believe it or not, when I was in Nashville, which is the country music Hall of Fame, and that's also where country music, the epicenter of country music, for instance. Johnny Cash, he would invite various country music artists on, and they just perform on there and play. So I wanted to try something similar with doing shout outs, and people send like little clips of their own, say drum solos, for instance. But I also got like people who were probably in groups, they were doing like little solos that friends had recorded, for instance. So it's mainly trying to promote people, for instance. And I'm hoping when my channel gets big one of these days, it would really help their channels grow too. Then Fridays, I think Fridays originally I wanted to try to do like Q&As, but I mold that in with the McGripp show now. So now Fridays are just strictly drum covers. So there's that. Cool. And I do have a long list for drum covers. Now I just need to put them all in, record, and make my MIDI notes and everything, and see where it goes.
So have you got a schedule? You sound like you've got a schedule that you stick to, which sounds great. Something that I wish I had, but I've not got, unfortunately. Is it always Monday, Wednesday, weekend, or whatever, or is it?
I'd say it's mostly up here, but I've always told myself do podcasts on Mondays. So I got John Hoff this upcoming Monday. Do you know Drum Club, aka Mark Anderson?
No.
He's also a fellow UK member too, so go check out his channel.
Right.
This is going to be next Monday, and both really nice guys. Each one varied in length because me and John, we talked for a good while, whereas me and Mark, we talked for just a little over an hour. But each one was pretty good. But at least for the next couple of Mondays, I'm at least good. Wednesdays, I always like to at least do the McGripp show, but since I had the drum collaboration it was actually with Mark Young, I forgot to mention that. We're doing Metallica's Orion. So, since we did that, I figured we'll go and post it here. So, and then I just decided to stick with my drum cover for Friday, which is High on Fire's Snakes for the Divine. And that was more metal, so I don't know how familiar you are with that group, but it's called sludge metal. Apparently that's what they call the metal genre, for instance. But that one I've been meaning to cover for a good while, and it's actually a very fun song to play too. So there's that one, and got a list with like I meant to get back into what my Teenage Rebellion was called with Silverstein and Story of the Year. But I think on and off, I'm gonna try to do like other songs from like Morbid Angel, for instance, I think I had maybe any recommendations because I'm starting to start a Patreon page too. So that's at least a way to make money because it's hard to make money on YouTube.
Good stuff. Yeah, well, I mean, what you're doing is obviously being really successful. I mean, congrats on the channel, like I say. I think we'll wrap up there. We've got a nice chat there for half an hour. So thanks, Bryan. Cheers for coming on. Really enjoyed chatting to you, and thanks for all the sort of likes and comments you've put on my channel over the time, and it's been great to chat. It's been great to have you on, and keep up the great work on your channel. Keep up your interviews. You've had some great people on, and keep on doing what you're doing because obviously it's going very, very well. I shall leave Bryan's details in the description. Go and check out Bryan's channel, like it, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Please also like and subscribe to this video and let me know if you'd like to see more interviews on the channel, or maybe you are a drummer who would like to be interviewed. And if you are, please get in touch. I guess the final thing to say is thanks, Bryan. Thanks everyone for watching. And to all the drummers out there, keep drumming. Thanks everyone. Cheers, Bryan. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Pete.